Hey YouTube, this is Travis with Nostalgic Duelist. I would like to do a deck review on my dragon deck, because why not? I don't know of very many people out there that have just one solid type of deck without changing it up a little bit. And with this dragon deck, the majority of it I did, but there's some cards that I have that are not exactly dragon, but they will help the deck nonetheless. Now, as you can see, not everything is covered here. I only have, all the monsters, of course, all the traps, but not all the spells or magic cards, because that's the rest of that's down here, and I'll show you that eventually as we continue. But without further ado, we can get started with the very first one here. So you can see I have very few level 1s here. I have Karibo, which is a very good card, and in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh, everybody knows that Karibo will save your life in a lot of situations. I also have Horus Servant. Horus Servant's one of those cards that, kind of like Lord of D, if you have a dragon type on the field, the dragons cannot be targeted, only Lord of D can. This is a lot like Horus right here, where if Horus Servant's out on the field, any Horus level dragon that's out cannot be targeted as an attack, and he's the one that's instead targeted. And Red Eyes Beat Chick, because of the evolutionary state. If I have a Red Eyes Black Dragon in my hand by any chance, I can use Red Eyes Beat Chick to tribute it. Now with the level 3s I have a little bit more, of course, but nonetheless they're still pretty cool. Armed Dragon level 3. Simply because normally when you start off with this deck, it's kind of like the Baby Dragon and Time Wizard combo. Usually one comes up before the other. And in this case, Armed Dragon is usually there for me. The only problem is, in duels, it seems like I can get him out, but I can't keep him on the field for some reason. It's good, especially when you're able to destroy a monster with this. It's really good. But let's move on. Masked Dragons. Masked Dragons is infamous. It's just like a lot of those other cards. Just like the Mystic Pumpkin, the UFO Turtle, the Pyramid Turtle. There are a lot of those cards. You destroy, you get another card out. Very good for that. And as you can see, I don't have one, not only two, but I have three. Because this card has some very decent stats. 1400 attack. It's not very bad for a monster that just does nothing but gets other cards out. And it's really good when that happens, because then I can easily get this card out. It's pretty cool. Now for level 4s, it's pretty much the bulk of this deck. As you can see, it's a lot of level 4s. Let's start it off. We have Horus, Black Dream Flame Dragon level 4, and as you can see it's a rare. Which is a pretty good also, it's just like the Armed Dragon level 3. We only have I think 1 or 2 Luster Dragons in here, because they're pretty decent. We have 2 Alexandrite Dragons, because they're actually really decent. I just transferred these actually from my light deck, because my light deck's a lot like that. I think we have about 1 or 2 of we have 2 of these dragon dwelling in the cave because of its defense. It's pretty decent. 2000's not bad nowadays. Mirage Dragon I have here because of its effect. It's really awesome. It's just like that wolf card I can't think of right now, but it's really cool in the sense that you can use it and you can't use trap cards. So pretty much it's unstoppable unless stopped by monsters or magic. And I already showed you this card. It's pretty much the same as the last one. It's good defense. Element Dragon. The reason why Element Dragon's in here is kind of like the Element Magicians and stuff like that, with anything with Element in its name. To where if it's a certain type of attribute, like if it's fire, it gains 500. If it's wind, it gets to attack twice. It's pretty cool. It usually helps, and it's good in the dragon deck. Especially for the card I'm about to show you soon. Spear Dragon, really good. It's kind of like the Goblin Attack Forces, except only with one thing. Yes, when it attacks, it goes straight into defense, but it does piercing damage if the defense is weak. So yeah, this is a pretty good card, by the way. If you get the collection, just like the Armed Dragon, you won't really have a problem. As you can see, my floor loves fighting with me. So we go on to our level 5s. and we practically have none, only just a couple. And we have Armed Dragon level 5, which is pretty cool. It's the evolution of level 3, and the effect is that I can take any card and sacrifice, discard it to the graveyard. Any monster with that same attack or lower are all destroyed. So like, if it's a Alexandrite Dragon, for example, I've used before. If I decided to discard that to the graveyard, then anything with 2,000 attack or lower are all destroyed. It's a pretty good card. And if I attack with this card, it will evolve again into the next level. It's a pretty good card. It's decent. 2,400 attack. 2,400 attack and 17 defense. It's a pretty decent card. And this card, yeah. If you can try pronouncing this name, I would be so happy. But I think it's called the Interplanetary Purpley Thorny Dragon. My best bet at that. And the reason why I have this card in this deck is because if the monster is automatically destroyed, then I can easily special summon this straight from my hand. So it's a really good quick draw card, if you want to say. It has 2,200 attack. It's not very bad. It's a decent card. But nonetheless, it can help support you in battle. Now, by any chance, if this video does quit, like just cuts off while I'm speaking or something, I will go ahead and make a part 2 to this, and I'll explain and continue from where I was last. Now, with our level 6s, I used to have some cards in here, I ended up taking them out. The Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 6 is a very, very good card. The special thing about these cards is the fact that magic cards, or spell cards now, as they're called, cannot destroy these cards. If they have anything like a Dark Hole or a Raigeki, if any of those kind of cards are on the field, anything that targets this card is automatically negated and destroyed. So it's really good for covering with spells. But on the other hand, trap cards are, well, they're the exceptions. And of course, monsters. It has an attack of 2,300. It's not very bad. And like the Armed Dragons and the previous pre-evolution of this card, if it destroys a monster, it automatically evolves. And for our other one here, we have Whitehorn Dragon. It's a rare and it's limited. There we go. So it's a limited version. It's not a very bad card, but there's only one thing to it. You have to select up to 5 spell cards from your opponent's graveyard, and and you get to remove them from play. It's a pretty good card. It has 2,200 attack and 14 defense, but what the effect does is that if you can find the 5 spell cards or magic cards from the graveyard and you remove them from play, it gains about 300 for each of the removed cards. It's a total of 1,500. It's pretty cool. It's really the only way to summon it. But you can normal summon it. If you do, you can still use the effect. And it goes from 2,200 plus 15. It's 3,700. It's a pretty good card. It's a pretty good effect for this card. In fact, some might consider it as slightly OP, but nonetheless, it's a very good effect. It can help if you're in a real jiffy sometimes. Now, this card is a beast. Just like Armed Dragon level 5, you can get rid of a card and whatever the attack points of that is. When you discard it, anything with that attack point or less goes to the graveyard. And it's a beast card for 2,800. That's pretty good. These are our level 7s, by the way. As it says right there, level 7. But otherwise, yeah, this is a really awesome card. And if you decide you want to collect these, you can always collect them. As you see, this one's a hollow. But I decided to keep it in this deck for a strict reason of this deck being a dragon deck. And our other card is not the nostalgic version of it, but it's still pretty good. It's the Red Eyes Black Dragon. And like I mentioned to you earlier, from the level 1 section about the Red Eyes Beat Chick, all I have to use is Red Eyes Beat Chick and I can summon this bad boy out. Everyone knows that the attack is 2,400 and 2,000 defense, but it's still pretty good. And the card I'm about to show you later on that involves this card is even better. But now let's go to the one and only level 8 card that I have here. Unfortunately, back in the past, Back then, when I was like younger, Yu-Gi-Oh was the thing, and it was awesome. But some people didn't see it that way, and they kind of started bullying other people who liked Yu-Gi-Oh. This card is an unfortunate victim of that. This card is also limited edition. When I can get the thing to register. There we go. Limited edition. And it's a secret rare. Secret rare Horos, the Black Flame Dragon level 8. There we go. Actually, I got this from the Soul of the Duelist. The one with the Yugi and this dragon in the background. I think it's Soul of the Duelist. One day at Walmart, I decided to go ahead and buy a pack. Just a random pack. And this happened to be the very card that comes out of it. It's awesome to find that the first card out of the whole pack was this card. In fact, it was a limited edition, a secret rare. Oh my gosh. This has the stats of a Blue Eyes practically. It has 3,000 attack, but 1,800 defense. And it has the same effects as the last one. No magic cards, no spell cards can affect it. And if anything that has that as a target, is automatically negated and destroyed, with the exception of trap cards and, of course, other monster effects and stuff like that. Just like to any of these cards. This is practically a very good card. If you can actually manage to get this out, you will be set to go. It's really good. But yeah, here is the reason why I said that Red Eyes Dragon, and that Red Eyes Black Dragon, when I said there was a card that would really help. This, oh my gosh. Just look at this. Red Eyes Darkness Dragon. As you can see, it even lurks in the dark too. It's a pretty beast card. It's a holograph. It's holographic in name and picture. It's just that since it's in the shadow, you can't really see it. There we go. There we go. Look at that baby. This Red Eyes, unlike any other, is actually pretty beast. What this card can do is that it cannot be, of course, it can't be normal summon. It's one of those cards. But it has to be special summoned by tributing a Red Eyes Black Dragon. Now, what this card can do is that for each dragon, the attack of this card is gained by 300 points for each dragon-type monster in your graveyard. So since this deck is obviously dragon-tailored, this card can get a pretty big boost, if I do say so myself. And since the attack of this is already the same as the Red Eyes, imagine if all of these dragon cards were in the graveyard, and the cards you had left were all supporting cards, like magic and trap stuff that keeps you alive. This card would be seriously OP'd. 300 times all the dragons that I showed you, with the exception of Karibo and the Horus Servant. That's quite the number there. It's pretty cool. So yeah, that's it to all the monsters. But otherwise, this card is so beast. It's pretty much what completes the deck. Now, for our regular, or say normal trap cards, we have Thunder of Ruler, which is a pretty good card. It's kind of like, I forgot the Roar card. But Thunder of Ruler is pretty much a card that says you can't attack. So when your opponent starts, you can activate it, and they can't attack for that turn. The most nostalgic card in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, under that huge list of nostalgic cards, Waboku. Pretty much a Karibo. That's all you really need to know. All battle damage is 0, so anyone, let's say a first monster attacks becomes 0, the rest of the monster's attacks are pretty much the same. Magic Cylinder, a very beast card to have. It will save your hide in more than one situation. Thing reflects battle damage all the way back to the opponent, so if they have like a strong monster and you're about to lose, you can simply activate this card, and everything that was sent to you or meant to be sent to you is already automatically sent to them. And so our next card here is Cemetery Bomb. Now, for some duelists, I don't know if a lot of people know about this card. I brushed it off as a pretty weak card. My friend gave it to me and he said this would definitely help your deck. And when I said, oh, that's nothing, he was saying, oh, it's a really good card. You just have to look at it and read it. So I did, and it's actually a pretty beast card. It does 100 damage times the amount of cards in your opponent's graveyard. So if your opponent has like half of their deck, let's say they have a 60 card deck, like this is pretty much, not really, but you'll get the point in my future reviews. But let's say they have 60 cards. They will get and they used half of your cards, half of the cards, let's say 40, just to be safe, 40 cards, they would get at least 4,000 damage because of this card. It would be 100 times 40, and that's a pretty beast card. 100 per card, so yeah, pretty awesome. Sakuretsu Armor, very good card. It's like a trap hole, except that it doesn't matter what the monster is, even if he's special summoned. Attack, activate this, bam, it's done, they're destroyed. Draining Shield, very good card to have as well. What this card does is if someone, let's say your monster, like an opponent's monster attacks you, use this card and you gain, well, first you negate the attack, and second you gain the amount of points of the monster's attack, which is still pretty cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it to this. Now for my counter trap cards, there's not very much in here, it's only 3. I have Magic Jammer, which is a pretty decent card. It's pretty good. Say they have a card that could probably, like a Dark Hole, simply activate this, discard 1 card, and you're safe for that turn. Trap Jammer. Now, unlike Magic Jammer, Trap Jammer only works during the battle phase. If someone, like you say, they're going in the battle phase and you attack and they use something like the Draining Shield that I showed you earlier, or even maybe the Magic Cylinder, you can use this, still counting during battle phase, use this card, and it will automatically negate the trap card. So then it will save you and possibly win the duel, depending. And negate attack. Probably one of the best cards of, like probably one of the best counter cards that is out there. Because it just simply negates everything. It's pretty cool, except for trap cards and magic cards, of course. But still, it does really good with attacking. Now for my continuous trap cards, we got some pretty okay and decent cards and some pretty good cards. Zing Zehu. Zing Zehu. Yeah. As you can see, the card has seen its days, but still tournament legal. This card was in one of my very first decks, when back then the maximum amount of cards you could have was 40 in a deck. This beast of a card, it's pretty awesome. When you activate this, you select 2 set spells or trap cards. It can even be one or the other on the field and activate this card. As long as it's on the field, those cards can't be used. Say like one of the cards I have here is called Gravekeeper's Servant. Say that card was out. Well, can't use that now. As well as some other cards, such maybe as field barrier, like those field barrier cards, those manipulation cards. I can't remember all of them right now, but cards like that, that can do some damage. Because that means they can't use it for the rest of the duel, which means you might have an advantage. I'm thinking it works the same way the equip cards, like Snatch Steal or something like that, or Brain Control. I think that would pretty much say that they would be useless and therefore you get to keep your card. And the best part about it is, this card pretty much wastes their space. Because of the fact that now, since those cards can't be used, they have no choice but to get rid of the cards. And they can't really get rid of it because of this card's effect. It's really good. Now, what is a dragon deck without Dragon Rage? What it pretty much says, sum it up in like 5 seconds. Piercing damage. That's pretty much it. Every time a dragon type, well, anytime a dragon type monster attacks, it does piercing damage. It's a pretty good card. Again, one of the very big nostalgic cards is at this point called the Haunted. Now, I remember in the Yu-Gi-Oh series, especially the one I just seen, this card is a magic card in the series. Later on becomes a trap card, but nonetheless, it is a magic card. Don't you like how magic was purple back then and something like this maybe was a trap card? You know, I don't know, but this is a pretty good trap card. It brings back a monster that was previously destroyed by battle. Or, just bring back a monster. Yep. Special summon and attack mode. Now, perhaps one of the most annoying cards to have on the field, in both people's perspective, is this card. Of course, I got it as a rare, but funny thing is, I think I got this from a booster pack. Curse of Darkness. This card is a beast trap card. It's a very annoying trap card for your opponent, but it's a very favorable card to you if you don't mind not using, I don't know, spell or magic cards for the rest of the duel. Because what this card does is every time someone activates a magic card or a spell card, they get 1,000 points of damage per activation. Which, that's a pretty hefty fine to pay. You know, no one really likes to pay 1,000 life points to activate a card. But yeah, nonetheless, it's a very good trap card. And now, going to my normal spell cards and or magic cards, if I have any in this. Different Dimension Capsule. This is a pretty good card, but you would have to mind, if you don't mind waiting 2 turns, it's fine. What this card does is it allows you to take any card you want in the deck, any card, and it removes it from play for 2 turns, and then you get the card back in your hand once that second turn is up. So a pretty good card. It could be your trump card or your undisputable end. Stampeding Destruction is a pretty good card. It requires obviously a dragon type. And with this card, you pretty much just need a dragon card. Obviously, a dragon type. And you could destroy 1 spell or trap card on the field. And when you do that, you actually get to inflict 500 points of damage to the controller of that card. Which is a pretty good card. It's not that bad. It's quick light point damage. It's kind of like Sparks. Shield Crush. Another one of those very nostalgic cards, but nonetheless, it's pretty good. You can target any defense position monster on the field, and you can destroy them. Simple. The most acclaimed and probably the best card you have in your deck when it comes to stalling for turns. Easy strategy changer, easy duel changer, easy any type of changer. Swords of Revealing Light. Now, unlike Swords of Concealing Light, this card is a lot better because Swords of Concealing Light does 2 standby phases and this does 3 turns. Pretty much saves you. I recommend getting this card if you don't have it already. And I have another Stampeded Destruction. Now, perhaps I don't want to say number 1, but I do want to say in the top 5 most nostalgic cards, Monster Reborn. When I do my binder review, I do have the other version of this, but chances are it's probably going to be in Japanese. But nonetheless, this is pretty awesome. It allows you to special summon any monster from any graveyard, whether it's you or your opponent's graveyard. It's awesome. Level Modulation. Another really good card. I got this one as rare from the booster pack. And what this does is it allows your opponent to draw 2 cards. And you're allowed to special summon one level type monster from the graveyard to the field. Which means, say a card like this, one of these 2 cards went into the graveyard, you can use level modulation. Chances are you're going to have a high risk because if your opponent draws 2 cards, he might just have the card to get rid of rid of these monsters in the next turn. But you would get to actually special summon these back, and you don't have to worry about their effects or abilities. It's a pretty good card to have in a level deck. I don't know about Dragon, but level, yes. Hammer Shot. This one is also rare. What this does, it just gets rid of destroys 1 face-up position monster with the highest attack. It's kind of like a Fissure, in a way. Dragon's Gunfire. A very interesting card. It is a nostalgic card, but it's a very interesting one. Of course, if you possess a Dragon-type monster, it'll allow you to either do 800 points of direct damage, or you can destroy 1 face-up monster with a defense of 800. So, it's one of those your type of turn type things. Nonetheless, it's still a pretty good card, and it's pretty much into that. I'm going to go ahead and just brush these cards away, because I want to show you the rest of this. And nonetheless, it is a pretty good deck, if I do say so myself. I actually spent, if you guys actually want to know, I did spend a crap load of time on this deck. And it was my most spent time making But otherwise, here we go. Now for my quick plays. Mystical Space Typhoon, or as a lot of people like to call it now, MST. Simply gets rid of one magic or trap card, or spell or trap. But I just now learned from someone, a friend of mine, Zach, that it seems that you cannot destroy another Mystical Space Typhoon with this card. That doesn't really make any sense. If you guys can just put in the comment if that's really true or not, because to me, that really doesn't make any sense. This card gets rid of any card, any magic or trap card or spell or trap, and it's a quick play, so you should be able to. But I'm